The research ship Horizon moved slowly through the silent dark. Stars burned in every direction, like cold fires spread across an endless ocean. On the deck, most of the crew had already gone to rest, but one man stayed awake. His name was Arun. He stood near the wide viewing glass, his hands behind his back, watching the stars as if they carried secrets only he could see. Arun was not the most experienced among the humans on Horizon. Others had studied more worlds, handled more missions, and faced greater challenges. Yet, he had something else. He carried a quiet curiosity, a habit of watching and listening, of wondering about the strange lives that might exist beyond the human colonies. When others spoke about work or duty, Arun asked questions about dreams. On this night, the Horizon passed close to a region of alien space. Their ship had been given safe passage by the empire that ruled it. The empire was old, far older than human nations. It stretched across many systems, its laws carried by fleets, its beauty shone in crystal towers and golden banners that shimmered even across broadcasts. Arun had heard many things about them. Some said they were distant and proud. Others said they were wise, but unyielding. To Arun, they were simply mysterious. He had never seen their worlds in person, but he had seen her. The first time had been by accident. A broadcast played in the Horizon's hall, one of those cultural programs the Empire sent to visiting ships. Arun had been passing through when he saw her face. The alien princess, Lyra. She stood tall, with long hair like silver fire and eyes that seemed to shine with their own inner light. Even across a simple recording, her presence filled the room. Her movements were calm, yet strong. Her voice carried both command and kindness. Arun had stopped walking that day, staring longer than he should have. He did not speak of it to anyone, but her image remained in his thoughts. Now, standing alone under the vast window, he remembered her again. The ship was silent, and no one was nearby. His heart felt heavy with a wish that he knew was foolish, almost childish. Yet sometimes foolish thoughts escaped when one was alone. His lips moved, and he whispered. So quietly, he thought, even the cold glass could not carry the sound. I wish I could wed her, he said to the stars. He laughed softly at himself. The words had no meaning. He was human, a traveler from a young species. She was a princess of a vast empire, belonging to a people who looked at humanity as newcomers at best. The idea was absurd, and yet saying it out loud filled him with both pain and strange peace. A dream spoken was easier to let go. He turned away from the window and prepared to leave the deck, but far away. In a palace carved of crystal and stone, someone had heard him. The Empire's palace was not only a place of beauty, it was also woven with ancient technology, old systems that could stretch across distances of thought and sound. For reasons no human truly understood, whispers spoken under open stars sometimes traveled through those currents, reaching listeners who were never meant to hear them. That night, Princess Lyra had been walking through her chamber garden, where vines of light curled around pillars and soft fountains sang. She was thoughtful, weighed by her duties, when a voice touched her mind. I wish I could wed her. She stopped walking. The voice was strange, not of her people. It was human, carrying both shyness and courage. Lyra did not know this man, yet his words reached her as if he stood before her. She could have dismissed it. Many voices had reached her through those old currents in the past, usually loud, selfish demands from alien rulers or bold warriors. But this one was different. It was not a command. It was not even meant for her to hear. It was a whisper of longing, almost fragile. For the first time in many years, Lyra smiled. The next morning aboard Horizon, Arun thought nothing more of his quiet words. He worked with his crew, helping collect data from the drifting moons nearby. The day passed in its usual rhythm. But when evening came, the ship received a signal. It was marked as high priority, direct from the Empire's court. The captain read it with wide eyes before calling the crew to gather. Arun stood among them, confused as the captain's voice shook. We have been summoned to the Empire's world. The message names one of our own. Arun, you are to appear before the royal court? The crew turned toward him with shock. Arun himself froze. His chest tightened. Why him? He had done nothing to draw such notice. His mind raced, but no answer came. Only one memory burned in him, the whisper, the foolish words spoken to the stars. That night he could not sleep. He lay awake, wondering what awaited him. Was it punishment for daring to think of their princess? Was it mockery? Or was it something else? His fear and curiosity wrestled inside him until dawn. Days later, the horizon descended upon the Empire's capital world. Arun saw it through the viewing glass. The planet shone like a jewel, its surface ringed by glowing cities that stretched into the sky. Towers of glass and stone rose above rivers of light. Great ships moved in elegant patterns above the atmosphere. Everywhere he looked, beauty and power flowed together. When the crew disembarked, Arun was led alone toward the palace. Guards in armor of crystal escorted him across long bridges that floated above gardens of color. At last, he entered a hall where pillars touched the clouds and banners shimmered like waterfalls there. At the center stood Princess Lyra. Arun's steps slowed. His heart pounded, yet he kept walking, his eyes drawn to her. She was taller than he remembered from the broadcast, her form both graceful and commanding. Her silver fire hair glowed faintly in the hall's light. In her eyes, those luminous eyes met his with calm strength. "Arun," she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. "Do you know why you have been called?" He bowed his head slightly, his voice quiet but steady. "No, princess." She studied him for a moment. Then her lips curved just slightly. "You spoke a wish under the stars. A wish meant for no ears but your own. Yet it reached me." Arun's chest tightened again. His face burned, but he did not deny it. Slowly, he lifted his head and met her gaze. "Yes, princess," he said. "It was foolish, but it was mine."
Oh.
The hall grew silent. Even the guards seemed unsure how to breathe. But Lyra did not look angry. Instead, her eyes softened, carrying both curiosity and warmth. "Few would admit such a thing before me," she said. "Fewer still would speak with such honesty." Arun stood still, his mind racing. He had no plan, no clever words. He was simply a human who had spoken a dream too loud. And yet, at that moment, he felt something shift. He was not only a visitor in a foreign court. He was a man standing before someone who had truly heard him for the first time. Arun wondered if his foolish wish might lead somewhere beyond dreams. Arun remained in the great hall, standing under banners that shimmered like streams of light. The silence pressed against him. His heart beat loudly as if every guard and noble could hear it. Yet, Princess Lyra did not speak with anger or mockery. She studied him with calm eyes, as though weighing his soul. "You spoke a wish," she said again, her voice echoing softly across the chamber. "A wish that was not born of greed, nor ambition, but of a heart unafraid to dream." Arun swallowed. He felt the stares of the council members seated high upon their thrones. Their faces were unreadable, carved in stone like discipline. Some leaned closer, clearly displeased that a human had been given such notice. He kept his head lowered. "I did not mean to offend, princess," he said. The words escaped in the silence of space. "I thought no one would hear." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Yet I did." Her eyes held him for a long moment. Then, to the shock of every voice in the hall, she smiled. "You shall not be punished for honesty," she said. "Instead, you shall be tested. If your heart is as true as your words, then perhaps your wish carries meaning." Murmurs rose among the council. The eldest of them, a tall figure draped in golden robes, stood. "Princess," he said, his tone heavy with warning. "This is no matter for games. He is human. Their kind is new to the stars. They are untested, reckless, unworthy of such notice." But Lyra raised her hand, silencing the hall. "I decide who is worthy of my attention. This human spoke truth when he could have hidden in fear. That alone separates him from many who bow here daily." Her words carried weight that none dared openly challenge. Turning to Arun, she continued, "You shall remain in our palace as guest, not prisoner. Tomorrow, you will face the first of 3 trials. Each will measure more than strength. They will measure heart, patience, and courage. Succeed, and you may remain by my side as a chosen ally. Fail, and you will be returned to your world with no shame." Arun's breath caught. He had not asked for trials, nor sought such attention. Yet he felt something stir within him. To turn away now would be to betray the honesty he had already shown. Slowly, he bowed his head. "I accept." That night, Arun was given a chamber high in one of the palace towers. The room looked out over the capital city, where rivers of light curved through streets and ships drifted like stars brought close to ground. The air smelled faintly of crystal flowers that grew in the palace gardens, but though the beauty was great, Arun could not rest easily. He walked the balcony, staring at the twin moons above. His thoughts raced. Why had he spoken those foolish words on Horizon's deck? Why had they carried so far? 2 ears that could change his fate. He touched the railing, cool beneath his hands, and whispered again to the night, "What am I doing here?" The moons gave no answer, but far away, Lyra herself stood in her own chamber garden, gazing at the same sky. For reasons she could not explain, she felt drawn to listen again, wondering if another whisper would find its way to her. None came. But she thought of him, the human who did not deny. His words' morning came with the sound of bells ringing across the palace. Arun was led by guards into a vast courtyard of polished stone. Nobles gathered in balconies above, eager to see what would happen. At the center of the courtyard stood a circle marked with glowing lines. Lyra sat upon a raised throne, dressed in robes of deep silver. Her eyes never left Arun as she spoke. "This is your first trial, the trial of light." The floor within the circle shifted, forming patterns of glowing pathways. Blocks of stone rose and fell, creating bridges and gaps that twisted every few moments. "You must cross," she said. "Not with speed, but with patience. The path will change, and the wrong step will return you to the start." The nobles whispered, some amused, others doubtful. Arun looked at the shifting maze before him. His heart pounded, but he forced his breath to steady. This was not about strength. It was about focus. He stepped onto the first block. It glowed beneath his foot. He waited, watching the pattern shift before moving again. Some nobles laughed softly, mocking his slowness. But Arun ignored them. He remembered his years repairing machines back on Earth, how patience had often saved him more than force. Slowly, carefully, he moved. Minutes passed. Twice the path collapsed before him, forcing him to retreat. Yet he did not curse or rush. Step by step, he learned the rhythm of the maze, the way each stone rose in quiet sequence. At last, after what felt like an eternity, he reached the far side. The courtyard grew silent. Then, slowly, murmurs of surprise spread. He had not stumbled, not panicked, not abandoned the task. Lyra's lips curved slightly. "You have passed the first trial." Arun bowed, sweat on his brow but calm in his eyes. "Thank you, Princess." The second trial was held the next day, this time in a hall of mirrors and shadows. Arun stood in the center as beams of light struck the walls, splitting into countless reflections. Some beams cut sharp across the floor like blades of fire. A voice explained from above. "You must guide the light to its true path. Bend it, redirect it, make it whole again. But if you fail, the fire will burn." Arun looked around. This was no puzzle of steps, but of thought. He studied the mirrors, watching how the beams moved. Slowly, he turned the first, and the light shifted harmlessly aside. Then, another and another. Each change revealed new patterns, new dangers. His hands trembled, but he steadied them, remembering how as a boy he had fixed broken radios with patience rather than force. Hours seemed to pass, though it was less. Sweat ran down his face as he moved the last mirror into place. The beams bent, merged, and formed a single shining path that reached the ceiling. Breaking into a glow that filled the hall, the nobles gasped. Many had doubted he could solve it. Yet he had. Again, Lyra's eyes followed him with interest. "You have passed the second trial." But whispers in the court grew louder. Some nobles were unsettled. "This human has been lucky," they said. "He is clever, But cleverness is not enough. He must fail, for he cannot belong. The council gathered that evening in secret chambers. The eldest among them spoke with worry. If the princess continues, she may bind herself to him. We cannot allow it. The third trial must end in his failure. So the final trial was set, not as puzzle or game, but as danger. On the morning of the third day, Arun was brought to the edge of a training arena. It was wide, filled with machines that shifted like beasts of steel. At the far end stood a group of alien children, placed there as observers. But when the trial began, the machines suddenly malfunctioned. Their blades spun wildly, their bodies turned toward the children, not Arun. Gasps filled the arena. Nobles cried out in shock, though some faces hid satisfaction. Arun did not think. He ran. His feet pounded the ground as the machines advanced. He grabbed a fallen rod from the floor and swung, blocking one machine's arm. Sparks flew. Another machine turned, targeting the children with glowing eyes. Arun threw himself between them, his body shielding theirs. He shouted for the children to run. They obeyed, scattering toward safety. Pain shot through him as one machine struck his shoulder, but he held his ground, using quick thought to jam the rod into its gears. Smoke burst and the machine collapsed. At last, guards rushed in, shutting down the arena. Silence followed, heavy and stunned. Arun stood panting, his shoulder bruised, his body tired. But the children were safe. He looked up, meeting Lyra's gaze. For the first time, the nobles had no words. They had tried to see him fail, but instead he had acted with courage greater than any puzzle could measure. Lyra rose from her throne, her voice clear. He is passed. Not by chance, not by trick, but by heart. This human has shown patience, wisdom, and bravery. Let no one deny it. The hall echoed with her words. Arun bowed, but in his heart he knew something greater had begun. For in her eyes, he no longer saw only curiosity. He saw trust, and something deeper still. The palace halls were no longer quiet after Arun's trials. Word spread quickly across the capital world, carried by whispers in gardens, by voices in crowded markets, and by noble speeches in hidden chambers. A human had not only entered the royal court, but passed 3 ancient trials that even the empire's own champions had sometimes failed. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a mistake. Arun himself felt the weight of these whispers without hearing them directly. He spent his days walking the palace gardens under guard, not as prisoner, but as guest. Wherever he went, eyes followed him. Servants bowed politely, but with curiosity. Nobles watched from balconies, speaking in tones too low for him to catch. Children sometimes smiled at him shyly, remembering the man who had shielded them in the arena. But though the palace shone in beauty, Arun carried unease. He had passed the trials, yes, but he did not know what came next. The thought of Lyra, her silver fire hair and calm eyes, pulled at his mind more than he wanted to admit. He respected her strength and her kindness, but he also feared what his presence might cost her. One evening, as the sun set beyond the horizon and painted the sky in shades of red and gold, Arun stood on a balcony. The city below glowed like a river of stars. He leaned on the railing, lost in thought. "You do not seem at peace," a voice said behind him. Arun turned. It was Lyra. She stood tall, her robe flowing softly in the warm wind. For a moment, Arun felt the air leave his chest, but he steadied himself and bowed slightly. "Princess," he said, "I was only watching the city." "Watching, yes," she replied, stepping closer. "But thinking of more than towers and lights?" Arun gave a small smile. "You see much." "I must," she said simply. "A ruler who does not see beyond walls is no ruler at all." Hey. She paused, studying his face. "You fear something." Arun hesitated, then nodded. "I fear that my presence here brings trouble for you. I hear the whispers, even if I cannot make out their words. Many do not want me here." Lyra's eyes softened. "They fear what they do not understand. But I am not afraid." "Why not?" he asked, his voice quiet. She looked out at the city. "Because you are different from them. You did not come here seeking power or glory. You came because of a wish you did not hide. Honesty is rare in the courts, and when danger came, you protected our children without hesitation. That is strength I value more than swords. Arun felt heat rise in his chest. Still, I am only human. To them, that is weakness. To me, she said firmly, turning back to him, it is not weakness. It is possibility. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the city lights flickering below like living stars. Arun wished to say more, to tell her what stirred in his heart, but the sound of approaching footsteps broke the moment. A messenger arrived, bowing deeply. Princess, he said, the council calls for urgent meeting. Voices rise across the empire. They demand your presence. Lyra's calm expression did not waver, but Arun could see tension flicker in her eyes. She nodded and turned away. Before leaving, she looked once more at him. Stay strong, Arun. Trials may be over, but the true test begins now. That night, the council chamber roared with voices. Nobles stood in circles of stone, their robes flowing like waves of color. Holograms of distant governors flickered above, their faces sharp with anger. This cannot continue, one shouted. A human cannot stand beside our princess. It dishonors the bloodline, do you not see? Another countered. He passed the trials. That has meaning. Perhaps the old ways are showing us something. But the louder voices drowned the softer ones. Many nobles demanded Arun's removal. Some even spoke of returning him to his ship by force. Lyra listened, silent until their noise filled the chamber. Then she stood, her presence drawing stillness. You fear him because he is human, she said. But have you not seen his actions? Have you not watched him face the maze, the mirrors, the machines? He showed what our champions could not. Patience, wisdom, courage. These are the foundations of leadership. And yet you call him unworthy because his blood is not ours. A noble in golden robes stepped forward, his eyes sharp. He is dangerous, princess. If you continue, the people may turn. Our rivals may take this chance to weaken us. Do not confuse curiosity with destiny. Lyra's voice did not rise, but her words cut deeper than any blade. Do not confuse fear with wisdom. The chamber grew still. For the first time, some nobles looked uncertain. Meanwhile, outside the palace, Aaron wandered the gardens, unaware of the storm within the council. He walked among glowing flowers, their petals opening in the night air. Yet even there, shadows lingered. 3 figures in cloaks moved among the paths, their eyes fixed on him. Arun noticed them too late. They stepped out, blocking his path. You do not belong here, one hissed. Arun straightened. I did not come by choice. I was called, and leave by choice. Another said, their hand on the hilt of a blade made of light. Arun's heart pounded. He had no weapon, only his hands and his wits. If I leave now, what do you gain? What are you so afraid of? The third figure spat the words, that she may choose you. The blade flickered, but before it struck, guards rushed in, drawn by hidden signals. The cloaked figures fled into the night, vanishing into the city. The guards checked Arun quickly. You are safe? I am, he said, though his breath still raced. When Lyra heard, her anger was clear, though she spoke in calm tones. They feared change so much that they would break law to stop it. But this only proves more why your presence matters. Days turned into weeks. Arun remained in the palace, learning more about the empire. He studied their history, their art, their ways of ruling. He spoke with citizens in the markets who were less fearful than nobles. Some even admired him, especially the families of the children he had saved. Slowly, voices of support grew, but so too did the opposition. Whispers of rebellion began in outer systems. Rivals of the royal family spread lies, claiming the princess had been bewitched by a human. Skirmishes broke out on distant worlds. The empire trembled with unrest. One evening, as Arun sat with Lyra in a quiet hall, he spoke softly. I do not wish to be the cause of war. If my leaving brings peace, then I will leave. Lyra looked at him sharply. You would abandon your wish so easily? It was never meant to hurt anyone, he he said. What is one man's dream compared to the safety of many? Her gaze softened, but her voice held steel. It is not only your dream now, it is a question for all. Can we rise beyond fear, or will we fall into it? If you leave, they win. If you stay, you give us a chance to change. Arun met her eyes. For the first time, he saw not only a princess, but a leader ready to fight for what she believed in. And deep inside, he knew he could not walk away. I will stay, he said firmly. She gave a small smile, one that reached her eyes. Then together, we will face what comes. The true test came sooner than either expected. One morning, alarms echoed through the palace. Enemy ships had entered the system, rebels from within the empire, armed and determined. Their target was not the capital itself, but the palace, and the human inside it. Arun stood on the balcony as the skies lit with flashes of fire. Imperial fleets rose to meet the rebels, their ships glowing like blades of light. From the city below, citizens watched in fear. Lyra stood beside him, calm despite the storm. They come for you, Arun. To them, you are the symbol of all they fear. Arun turned to her. Then I will not hide. He knew he was no soldier, yet he could not stand aside. If humanity meant anything, it was the will to fight for others, even against impossible odds. And so, as the battle in the skies raged, Arun prepared for the struggle on the ground. Not as a warrior of steel, but as a human who refused to bow to fear. The skies above the capital burned with streaks of fire as rebel ships clashed with the Empire's fleet. Explosions lit the clouds, sending showers of sparks cascading across the city below. Arun stood beside Princess Lyra on the palace balcony, watching the chaos unfold. Despite the destruction, she remained calm, her silver fire hair catching the light of distant flames. They come not only for the palace, Lyra said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. They come for hope. For the future, for what you represent, Arun swallowed, his hands clenched at his sides. Then I must not fail them, he said. His voice was steady, though his chest burned with anxiety. He had never faced a battle like this. He was not trained for war in the way the Empire's soldiers were, yet he knew something that weapons and strategy could not teach human courage. Good, Lyra said. Then follow me. There is much to do. She led him into the palace corridors, where servants and guards hurried past. Alarms rang in their ears. The rebels had broken through outer defenses, and many of the city's gates were under siege. Lyra moved quickly, but without panic, her presence commanding the people around her. Arun followed, his mind racing. They reached the central chamber, where the council and palace strategists had gathered. Holographic maps floated in the air, showing the positions of ships and troops. Lines of red indicated enemy movements, while blue and gold marked the Empire's forces. Arun, Lyra said, turning to him, I need you here. You are not trained for battle, but your mind can see what others do not. We need every advantage. He nodded, his fear settling into determination. Tell me what to do, Lyra pointed at the hologram. The rebels have divided into 3 groups. One targets the gates, another the palace walls, and the third is moving toward the central tower. If they succeed, the city falls, and the people may lose hope. Arun studied the map, his mind racing. He thought of the children he had saved, of the people of the city, and of the trust Lyra had placed in him. His human instinct for problem-solving took over. We can block the central tower group by creating a barrier of light and debris from the palace itself, he said. It will slow them. Give your forces time to respond. The strategist raised an eyebrow. That is risky. It could collapse part of the palace. I understand the risk, Aaron said, but if we wait, we may lose everything. Lyra nodded. Do it, she commanded. Arun moved quickly, gathering palace guards and engineers. They worked to create the barriers using ancient devices that manipulated energy fields. Sparks flew as he adjusted the controls, sweat on his brow, yet his hands were steady above. The rebels approached the central tower. As they neared, Arun activated the barrier. A wall of light and energy rose, bending around the building, and forcing the attackers to swerve. Ships collided against it, some damaged, some retreating. The palace held, but just barely. Lyra watched him, her eyes filled with pride. "You have saved the tower," she said. "And with it, the hope of our people." Arun's chest rose and fell with exhaustion. "It is not over yet," he said. "They still attack the gates and walls." In the city streets, the rebels advanced, hoping to enter through the main gates. Arun followed Lyra down to the lower halls, where soldiers were struggling to hold their positions. He saw people panicking, servants and citizens hiding from the sounds of battle above. "Stay calm," Lyra instructed. "We protect those who cannot fight." Arun joined the defense, helping to organize civilians into safe zones. He guided families through secret passages, keeping them away from falling debris and collapsing walls. Many whispered words of gratitude as they passed him, calling him brave human. Though the words were small, they lifted something in his heart. Humanity could do more than survive. They could protect. Then a loud crash shook the corridor. Rebel soldiers had broken through a side entrance. Arun turned to see them advancing toward the civilians. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, picking up a metal rod from the ground. He did not attack recklessly, but he blocked their path, guiding them away from the families. "Follow me," he shouted, motioning for the guards. "We must protect the children first." The rebels hesitated, surprised by his courage. Arun's calm determination gave the guards time to surround the intruders. The rebels retreated, realizing they could not overcome the unexpected resistance. Arun breathed heavily, looking around at the safe civilians. Relief washed over him, though there was no time to rest. Meanwhile, in the sky above, the largest group of rebel ships had reached the palace gates. Lyra led the defense personally, riding atop a hovering platform that allowed her to issue commands across the battlefield. Arun joined her, standing beside the control panels that directed energy shields and defensive drones. "Hold steady," she said. "If we falter now, the city falls. If we succeed, our people will remember this day for generations." Arun nodded. He focused on the controls, adjusting shields and guiding drones to intercept enemy ships. His human intuition, honed by years of observing patterns and solving problems, gave him an edge. While alien soldiers relied on strict calculations, Arun noticed gaps, predicted movements, and directed resources with precision. One by one, enemy ships were disabled or forced to retreat. "Your mind is remarkable," Lyra said softly, standing beside him. "You see solutions that others miss." Arun glanced at her, breathing hard. "I only do what I must. To protect, to survive, and to keep hope alive." Her eyes softened. "That is why you are different. That is why you matter here." The battle raged for hours. Fires spread across parts of the city, and the sound of alarms and explosions shook the palace foundations. Yet Arun and Lyra worked together, directing defenses and inspiring the soldiers. With each maneuver, they pushed the rebels back, gradually gaining control of the city's skies and streets. At one point, a massive rebel cruiser descended directly toward the central plaza. Its weapons were powerful, capable of leveling buildings in seconds. Arun studied the patterns of the attack. He noticed a weak point in the ship's hull, an area exposed as it adjusted its trajectory. "Princess," he called, "I see a chance to stop it. If we aim the energy cannons here, we can disable the cruiser without destroying the plaza." Lyra nodded, her trust clear. "Do it. I will support you." Arun adjusted the controls, focusing intently. The cannons fired, beams of pure energy striking the precise point he had identified. Sparks and smoke erupted from the cruiser. It shuddered, lost control, and eventually floated harmlessly into orbit. No longer a threat to the city, the soldiers cheered. And even some of the nobles watching from balconies could not hide their astonishment. Arun's human instincts had turned the tide of battle. As night fell, the city was battered but safe. Fires were extinguished, the rebels had retreated, and the citizens emerged from hiding, cheering for their protectors. Arun and Lyra stood together on the palace balcony, looking out at the survivors. "You have done more than any of us expected," Lyra said. "You have shown courage, strategy, and heart. Our people will remember this day because of you, Arun shook his head. I only did what anyone would do to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the lights of the city below. Few would have done what you did. That is why humanity is special. You think small, act bravely, and inspire more than any army could. Arun felt warmth in his chest. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to matter in a vast empire. He was no longer just a human among aliens. He had become a symbol of hope, courage, and heart. But even as the city celebrated, Arun knew the conflict was far from over. The rebels would return, the nobles would continue to resist, and the empire itself would test his place among them. Yet, for this moment, he could stand tall, not as a visitor, but as someone who had proven that humanity could shine even in the darkest storms. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Tomorrow, we will show the Empire what courage truly means. Arun nodded, looking out at the glowing city. The battle had changed him, shaped him, and yet strengthened the bond he felt with Lyra. For the first time, he allowed himself to dream again, not just of wishes whispered in the stars, but of a future where he belonged among the people he had fought to protect. The night sky above the palace was calm now, and the twin moons reflected on the rooftops. But Arun knew this peace was temporary. Challenges lay ahead, greater than any battle he had fought before. Yet for the first time, he did not fear them. With Lyra at his side, he felt ready to face anything. Together, they would rise above fear, above doubt, and prove that courage and heart could shape destiny itself. The morning sun rose over the capital, its light spilling across the crystalline towers and the polished streets. The city had recovered from the night's battle. Though scars remained, some buildings still smoking and streets littered with debris, the people moved again with purpose. Children ran along paths once darkened by fear. Citizens spoke in excited tones about the bravery of the human and the princess, who had led them to safety. Arun stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out at the city. He felt a weight on his chest, but it was not fear. It was a mixture of pride, hope, and anticipation. Weeks of trials, tests, and battles had led to this moment. He had proven his courage, his heart, and his loyalty. Yet even now, uncertainty lingered. He knew that the Empire's council and many nobles still whispered behind closed doors. Not all were ready to accept a human as part of the royal sphere. Lyra approached him silently. She wore a robe of soft silver, her hair flowing gently in the morning breeze. Her presence calmed him instantly. Arun, she said, her voice soft but firm. What? Today the council meets for a final decision. Today we see if courage and truth can overcome fear and tradition. Arun turned to her, meeting her glowing eyes. I do not know what to expect. Neither do I, she admitted. But whatever happens, know this: you have already proven your worth. It is not only skill that matters, but the strength of your heart. He nodded, taking a deep breath. Together, they walked through the palace halls toward the grand council chamber. The hall was filled with the Empire's most powerful nobles, their expressions tight with worry, suspicion, and curiosity. Holographic maps and floating symbols hovered in the air, showing the recent battles, the damage, and the victories. At the center of the chamber, Lyra stood tall. Arun followed her quietly, feeling the weight of every gaze. He bowed respectfully, then raised his head to meet the council. You have seen my human companion, Lyra began. You have watched him pass the trials, defend our children, and help save our city. He is brave, clever, and true. I have decided. He shall remain not as a visitor, but as a chosen ally and protector of this empire. The room erupted in murmurs. Some nobles gasped. Others whispered angrily to one another. The eldest counselor, draped in golden robes, rose slowly. His face was stern, but there was no anger in his voice. It's only careful calculation. Princess, he said, your choice is unprecedented. A human, an outsider, standing among us as a symbol. It will change many things. Some may resist, even rebel. Are you prepared for the consequences? Lyra met his gaze without fear. I am. The world is not built only on fear of change. It is built on courage, justice, and truth. Arun has shown all of these. Our people will see the value of honesty and bravery, even if it comes from a human. Arun felt his chest tighten. He had never expected to hear such words. The princess, his ally, the one he had admired from afar, was speaking not only for him, but for all of humanity. The council was silent for a long moment. Some looked at each other, weighing the choice. Finally, one noble, younger and less rigid than the others, spoke. He has shown courage that many of us lack. Perhaps it is not weakness to accept change, but wisdom. Slowly, other voices joined. Whispers turned into support. Arun realized that his actions, his patience, his cleverness, his courage had begun to shift the hearts of even the most skeptical. Lyra smiled at him, then stepped forward. "The council has spoken," she said, "and the Empire accepts that Arun is no ordinary human. He is a symbol of what humanity can bring to the galaxy. Loyalty, courage, and heart." The chamber erupted into applause, some hesitant, some enthusiastic. Arun stood, feeling the enormity of the moment. He had never imagined such an outcome when he whispered that wish under the stars. Later, preparations began for a ceremony unlike any the Empire had seen. In the central plaza, citizens gathered to witness the union that would mark a new chapter in history. The plaza was decorated with banners of silver and blue, flowers of crystal and light, and arches that reflected the sun in dazzling patterns. Ships hovered above, projecting gentle beams of energy that danced across the city. Arun walked beside Lyra as they approached the stage. He could see faces of the people, children waving small flags, families holding each other close. Many were smiling with hope. Others stared in awe at the human who had become their protector. Lyra turned to him, her eyes calm yet filled with emotion. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I am," Arun said, though his heart raced. He had passed trials, fought battles, and faced opposition. But now he faced something even greater: acceptance, connection, and a future intertwined with someone extraordinary. The ceremony began. Lyra spoke to the people, her voice clear and melodic. "Today we celebrate courage and truth. Today we honor the heart that dares to act with honesty, even when others doubt. Arun has proven that humanity carries qualities that shine across the stars. Let this day mark a new era for our worlds." The crowd erupted in cheers. Arun stood beside her, feeling the warmth of their support. It was not only victory over rebellion or fear, it was proof that courage and integrity mattered. But, above all else, when the time came, Lyra spoke directly to Arun. "You whispered a wish to the stars, and I heard it. You spoke honestly, and you acted bravely. Today, I answer your wish. Will you stand beside me, not as a visitor, but as a partner in this empire and in life?" Arun felt a wave of emotion. He had never thought a simple whisper could reach so far, touch a life so deeply. He took her hands, feeling their strength and warmth. "I will," he said, his voice steady. "I will stand with you, with honor and with all my heart." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. "Then you shall," she said. Her voice carried across the plaza. The crowd erupted once more. The ceremony continued with rituals of the Empire, light and music filling the air. Arun and Lyra exchanged symbols of their commitment, not as rulers over others, but as equals, standing together to protect and guide their people. After the ceremony, they walked among the citizens. Arun saw the hope in their eyes. Children approached him, asking questions about humans, about courage, about the stories of the trials. Families thanked him for his bravery. Arun realized that his actions had inspired not only the Empire, but the future. Lyra walked beside him, her hand lightly resting on his. "You see now," she said, "how important honesty, courage, and heart can be. You have changed more than just my life, Arun. You have changed the Empire." "I never imagined this," Arun admitted. "When I whispered that wish, I thought it was a dream. I never thought it could become real." "Dreams can reach farther than we think," Lyra said softly, "especially when paired with courage and truth." As night fell over the capital, the city shimmered with lights and celebration. The twin moons reflected on the towers, and ships glided silently above. Arun and Lyra stood on a balcony. Looking out over the empire that now accepted humanity among its people, Arun felt a calm determination in his heart. He had arrived as a stranger, whispered a wish in solitude, and faced challenges he never imagined. Yet, through honesty, courage, and the support of a remarkable princess, he had found a place where he belonged. Lyra placed her hand gently over his. "The future is ours," she said. "Not because it is given, but because we will shape it together." Arun nodded, his eyes on the city below. "Together," he repeated, and in that moment he knew that humanity had proven something greater than mere survival. Courage, honesty, and the will to protect could reach across stars, inspire entire civilizations, and create a bond that no fear or tradition could break. The Empire celebrated a new chapter, and Arun felt the truth of it deep in his heart. Dreams whispered to the stars could become reality. The courage to follow them could change worlds. Above the capital, the twin moons shone brightly, and the stars seemed to sparkle in approval. Arun and Lyra stood together, a human and an alien princess, united not only by choice, but by the proof that heart and courage mattered above all else. In the quiet of that night, a new era began, a union of worlds, a bond of trust, and a story that would be told for generations to come.